Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about, I guess something that I think is going to happen in episode 3 based off the trailer for episode 3. And so I want to talk about that. Is it possible that we're going to see Sylvie's death in episode 3? And I also want to talk about Laurent and the Cure storyline that started in season 1. And I want to talk about some of the issues that I do have with it, because there is one aspect to it that, I mean, right now there's really no issue, but eventually there is going to be an issue with it, and that's regarding the Nest's motives overall if Laurent is in fact the Cure. I don't think he is, but like if he was, then like what are they planning to do? So yeah, I want to get my thoughts on all that. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Episode 3 airs in a couple of days from now, and then the weekend after, or I guess the Friday after that, would be New York Comic-Con, and I'm really excited because any sort of big announcement for The Walking Dead could happen at that point. Dead City's going to be there as well, so I do expect, you know, a new teaser trailer of some sorts to get revealed then. And so yeah, because Dead City's been way too quiet, I think there needs to be a lot more excitement built up here for Dead City season 2. But then again, while The Ones Who Live was airing, it's not like we were all excited for Daryl Dixon season 2. Once this season ends, then obviously, you know, they'll build up hype for Dead City season 2, which for some reason has the better ratings. Like, I don't really understand that. Like, it seems like a lot of people have more issues with Dead City than Daryl Dixon, but for some reason Dead City has the best ratings out of at least the two shows, right? The ratings for Dead City are actually pretty close to The Ones Who Live, it seems like. So I'm pretty sure their premiere was like 700 something thousand. It was around there, so kind of in the middle, I guess. But yeah, so anyways, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my breakdowns for everything Walking Dead related. And yeah, so let's talk about this here. So Sylvie's death, is that going to happen? I was kind of surprised with, you know, I guess how they ended her story in episode 2, because she finds Laurent, and obviously this will contain spoilers for the episode, but I'm sure you guys are already aware of that. It's been a couple of days already. So at the end of episode 2, she finds Laurent, and obviously right away is very concerned, like, well, why do you have Laurent here? You are all acting like he's gone missing, but he's not. So what's going on here? And right away, obviously, I mean, I think that the way that the episode is done, honestly, like, you're expecting to see one more scene there from Sylvie, right? And then I think they get into a bunch of other stuff with Daryl and Isabel, and then Carol, you know, arriving to France, then eventually running into Pouvoir, that you're so focused on that you sort of forgot about Sylvie's storyline here. And I think that when you watch the episode 3 trailer, you do see this shot right here where it looks like there's a walker going up to Laurent, and it looks like it is Sylvie. Like, it literally looks like it's Sylvie, and I think that this is going to be a big reveal in this episode, or at least I'm hoping it's going to be a big reveal, because Sylvie was supposed to be, I would say, a bigger character this season. At least originally, after season 1, I thought that going into season 2, they were going to make her a bigger character. But, I mean, if they're killing her off this early already, I mean, it's halfway through the season, which, again, I really don't like the fact that this is only 6 episodes. Like, it really is just, it's too fast. 8 episodes is the way to go. It really is. 8 episodes or 10 episodes, because then it feels like an actual full season with like a whole story arc, and, you know, moments happen like this or that. 6 episodes, it's just, it's too fast. Like, honestly, I can't believe that after this Sunday coming up, we're already going to be halfway through the season. Like, Dead City season 2 is going to be 8 episodes. Honestly, that's going to be really incredible. I'm so excited for that. I really cannot wait. Like, it's going to feel like the real first season of anything Walking Dead related since the very final season aired, because since then, with all the spin-offs, it's been like way too fast. Honestly, like, watching every season so far, it's been like 6 episodes. You're done very fast. And the reason why I have issues with it is because once you get to the point of like right now, we're sort of in the whole story of The Walking Dead. And I know I'm getting off track here, but like after you watch like episode 2, even like episode 3, you're really like in the story at that point, right? For the season. And it's insane to think that after episode 3, you're already in the second half of the season, and you're going towards like the ending story already, right? Like, once you watch episode 4, you're basically at the very final part of the season. Like, you have episodes 5 and 6, which is going to be the conclusion to everything that happened that season and sort of set up for the next season. Like, it's way too soon. It's honestly, the story feels way too rushed. And like right now, I would say the pacing is a little bit better, but also, there are issues still, like with Carol, you know, getting to France. Even though I do like how they explained it and they took their time, it is still rushed. Like, a lot of what happened in episode 1, honestly, like, you could have focused on like an episode or 2 of other Carol storylines before she actually found a plane and got to France. Like, there's just better ways to tell the story, I would say, overall, and you wouldn't have so many issues, because a lot of the concerns or issues that people have with the season so far is like, that was way too convenient, or this thing happened too fast, or like, this has been way too rushed, like with the Ones Who Live finale and just sort of the previous seasons in general, that's sort of been overall a concern, though obviously less in Dead City and Daryl Dixon season 1. The Ones Who Live was really rushed. And so I just think, yeah, in the future, we need 8 episodes at least, right? And I think that season 3 of Daryl Dixon's only going to be 6 episodes, which is really, like, honestly, really has me concerned. But Dead City is going to be 8 episodes. And so I'm really excited about that because I think that's, sometimes you need those boring episodes, like those bottle episodes to sort of build up the story a little bit more, right? Like to live in the world that much more. So 10 episodes to me would be perfect, but I think 8 you could also do. 6 is just really not enough at all, and I'm starting to feel it here with the story here. Like, I think after episode 3, if Carol and Daryl don't reunite right away, like, we're going into the second half of the season, you know, maybe thinking like, well, maybe they'll reunite episode 4, and then we just have 2 episodes and everything's ending already that fast, and somehow they have to go to Spain. Like, I honestly, I don't know, maybe I'll do a video talking about everything and talking about all of my issues with all the other spin-offs and how an extra episode or 2 would have helped the story so much more, because I just think that it definitely is an issue. But is Sylvie's death going to happen here in this episode? I personally think so. I think that there hasn't really been a death that has happened, you know, I guess a bigger death. Like Emil was not really that big of a character. Like you sort of recognize him because obviously he was there in season 1, but Sylvie would actually be a much bigger death, I would say, overall for the story. I think there are going to be bigger deaths this season for sure, but I think that if she died here, I think that for the story of Laurent getting to the nest and how insane this place is, like, it kind of makes sense to me. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, just look at the episode 3 trailer. Like, I honestly, at first I was like, well, there's no way they would show that. And honestly, when you're watching it, the scene happens so fast that maybe you're not really expecting it to be Sylvie. But when you're looking at the scene, I'm like, no, that looks like her. Like, that actually looks like Sylvie. So I think that Sylvie's actually going to die. And I don't know if they're going to show her death, because I feel like, I mean, in terms of screen time, I don't think you really want to go back and do all of that, right? Like to have a scene where you show how she dies. I think there's probably going to be more of a reveal of like, you know, we're going to see if Laurent is the cure, because again, that's going to be a big part of the Nest storyline here for episode 3. Like, Lo Sang really believes that he is the cure. And so having Sylvie come out and is a walker, right? Like, I think that'd be such a crazy reveal. And then Laurent's response to that, does he like run away right away? Does he like break down? You know, I'm really curious on how the scene would actually play out overall. But again, when you look at the episode 3 trailer, it really just seems like that has to be Sylvie. And that's the one thing about the Nest that is really interesting now, is that I think right now they are seen as villains. I think that they're definitely not heroes. There's nothing really good about them anymore, because what their plans are for Laurent are definitely something that would cause him a lot of harm, especially because they believe that he is the cure, and so they might actually allow him to get bit by a walker, which obviously he's not the cure, so he's going to turn to a walker, right? So like, you don't want that to happen, and that's where I do have some issues, I think, with the storyline, because I mean, again, I understand it from the Nest's point of view, because they really believe that he won't turn to a walker, that he actually is the cure. And again, a reveal like that, I don't think it's actually going to happen in the episode. I think if it happened, it would be crazy. You know, maybe, like, it is halfway through the season, so maybe something like that happens, but I just don't see that happening. I do think Daryl and Isabel are likely going to get there before that happens, just because, I mean, we have shots of Daryl and Isabel arriving there, and I just don't see that happening. Also, we have shots of Isabel and Laurent, you know, I guess away from the Nest, or they're at the Nest, but it looks like they're running away. So I think that they're somehow going to show up and save Laurent, right? Like, that's going to happen. And so for me, though, what I will say is for the Nest, and that's one of the things that I hope we learn in episode 3 specifically, because that's sort of where the storyline is going here, right? And that's going to be the biggest reveal here in this episode. And that is, like, what do they plan to do with Laurent if he is the cure? Like, there's this whole ceremony happening, and Laurent, if he actually, you know, he is the cure, say he's bit by a walker and he doesn't turn, like, crazy reveal, Laurent is the cure. It would be such a big storyline that would affect the entire world, like also all the other spinoffs as well, right? Like, it would affect everything if Laurent was actually the cure. And so, you know, having that much power, what would the Nest do at that point? And that's one of the things that we don't know yet about this group, and that's sort of a concern I have in terms of, you know, how they wrote all of this here, is that might not be something that comes out in the next couple of episodes. Like, maybe it's going to be something where they want to do this because they want to prove a point, but in terms of writing the story, you know that you're never going to get that explanation, because you're never going to really get to that point anyways, right? Because Laurent is not going to be bit by a walker, because Daryl and Isabel are going to save the day, and then all this stuff's going to happen, and maybe Pouvoir shows up at the Nest, and I don't know where the story goes at that point. But that's my concern, is like, I want to know more of what the Nest's plans are. Like, right now, I'm just assuming that if he was the cure and they actually did the ceremony and they found out, okay, Laurent is the cure, then maybe they just have that much power, right? Like maybe that's just what they have in the world is power, right? Like everyone now knows that they have the cure, but then they're gonna have to deal with a lot of people like around the world wanting that power, and you know what I mean? Like it just, there's a lot of issues there, and I think that's why I'm kind of concerned here in terms of, you know, where the story's going. I want to see a little bit more of their plans. I feel like right now, you know, it wasn't thought of too much in terms of what their overall plans are, because they're more focused on really just what's happening with the story. Like, well, Daryl and Isabel are going to get there and save him anyways, and so that stuff won't come up. And then say Lo Sang dies in episode 3 or something like that, then like maybe you never really get to a moment like that where that can be revealed. Like that's my concern going into this episode here, and just really for the rest of the season, is that we're not going to get any sort of explanation for any of the bigger world stories or motives happening here, right? And I think that's what was so exciting about The Walking Dead before, was that there was a lot of really interesting storylines happening, and I was really interested in like how certain things were going to be explained. And I feel like Daryl Dixon season 1 did a really good job of explaining things, and also, you know, raising a lot of questions of like, well, like, is Laurent the cure? What is the nest really about? And like, where did the super walkers come from? This and that, like really exciting, interesting questions that so far in season 2, again, we're only 2 episodes in, but the answers so far haven't been the most exciting. And so that's kind of what I'm concerned about. But that's mostly for the nest motivations. Honestly, I think that the nest and their motivations with all of this here, I could see that being an issue, you know, just overall. Maybe we don't get that explanation in episode 3 because Daryl and Isabel saved the day, but by the finale, I do want to know, like, what were their plans overall if Laurent was the cure, right? Like, that's such a big thing here for the season. Like, what were they going to do if he actually was the cure? Because that was the build up from season 1 going to the nest, right? So I hope that we do get that explanation. But for everything else in terms of the super walkers and all of that, and the origins of like coming up with the super walkers and everything, like that's stuff that I imagine we will get an explanation to, maybe in episode 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there, I think, because you do have to get into some of that before the finale, right? Like, I don't think you're going to explain the origins of all of that in the finale. But Sylvie's death, I think, makes sense because that cliffhanger was really a cliffhanger that I think not a lot of people are focusing on right now, because again, you had a lot of really crazy scenes happening after that, so you were more focused on that. But like, Sylvie literally found out that Laurent was there, right? So I think that based off of that, based off of the episode 3 trailer, that Walker looks a lot like Sylvie. I think it makes sense that Sylvie's likely going to die here in this episode, and I'm not sure how it's all going to go down. Like, again, I think the reason for killing her makes sense because they don't want any issues with the ceremony, right? So Daryl and Isabel are gone. They already believe that they're most likely going to be dead, right? And so if you get rid of Sylvie because she found out that, you know, that you lied about where Laurent was, then you don't really have any issues, and then you can just have the ceremony and then everything will just be good, right? And so what's kind of crazy to me is just, you know, how all that plays out there. If Laurent actually just became a walker and died, like, what would the nest do? Like, they have no power at all, and Madame Genet would just win, right? Like, it's kind of crazy to me. So the nest is definitely, I think, really at this point done. I don't see really a reason why this place is going to be anything special going forward, because if Laurent stays there, because again, we know Daryl and Carol are going to Spain. I don't know if Laurent's going to go with them or not. We'll have to wait and see how the season plays out, but it's either going to be that, I feel like, or he just stays at the nest. But at this point, like, does he really stay at the nest? Because who's going to be there? I thought Sylvie could potentially be there with Laurent, but it looks like Sylvie could die here. I think Isabel's also going to die here at some point in the next couple of episodes, and so I don't know what happens to Laurent, so we'll have to wait and see where the story goes here. But yeah, it seems like this big moment's going to happen here in episode 3. It's going to be one of the biggest moments of the season so far, so I'm really excited for this episode. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.